Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast here on Toned In Entertainment. Today, joining me for the first time in 2026. I can't even remember what year it is anymore, but Julie Cutler is back in the house. Julie, welcome.
I'm back, Tony. Thank you so much, as always, for having me. I'm really excited to be back here in 2026. I feel like the past couple of years, we have been really lucky to interview just such an eclectic mix of really talented people from the independent scene. And I always get really excited whenever I find new people that I can recommend to you that I think would be really great to interview. And that is why we are joined here today. And if I may, Tony, introduce our guest. Hailing from Boston, Massachusetts, weighing in at 215 pounds, he is Pogo Milo Mirra.
I feel like I should have
wild.
I feel like I should have my ring jacket on, and then I'm coming out and I take it off.
Milo, thank you so much for joining us. I was over the moon to have you on the show today because I've had the opportunity to work with you a little bit over the course of the past couple of months. Finally, our paths have crossed. And also, for those of you who have seen some of your viral videos on social media, you have a very unique sort of niche role in the wrestling business that no one else is filling, at least nobody that I have ever seen before. And so before we kind of dig into that a little bit, of course, Tony and I always like to kind of go back to the very beginning of talking about your youth, your wrestling fandom, kind of how you stumbled into the business and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a pretty common story, right? I have an older brother. He's 12 years older than me, so I look up to everything he does. He's been my role model my whole life. And my big brother was a huge wrestling fan, very big wrestling fan. So when I was young, I don't remember my life without professional wrestling in it, right? I think ever since I was 5 or 6 years old, I've watched professional wrestling. And those are my earliest memories, right? Or going to wrestling shows with my brother, or him giving me his old ECW VHS tapes at way too young of an age to be watching ECW. So yeah. I mean, so that's how I got into professional wrestling. I mean, and I think those ECW videotapes are usually what I kind of point to as that's when my fandom started, right? Is watching Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka's feud. I'm watching Sabu and Raven doing barbed wire death match when I was 10, way too young. But I fell in love with professional wrestling. It was I thought wrestling was the coolest thing ever, and nobody could tell me any different. I used to get made fun of at school for liking wrestling. I used to bring in my action figures, all that stuff. I loved it to death. I have always loved it, and it's always been a part of my life. So, I can't remember a day in my life without professional wrestling. So, yeah, that's kind of how I became a wrestling fan.
That's crazy because you mentioned those ECW tapes, and I couldn't get ECW where I was as a kid on, it was on some weird cable channel that you couldn't get. And I remember I bought a DVD at the store the first time because I was a fan of wrestling, but I couldn't watch ECW. And I saw that Mike Awesome versus Tanaka match. It's the same one you mentioned, blew my mind. And that's what kind of said, okay, I need to find out more about ECW just from those particular sets of matches.
Yeah, they're so cool. I mean, I implore anybody watching, if you haven't seen those matches, go watch them. They're incredible. It's so good.
I will say also, Milo, so I had a very similar backstory to you, where I grew up with older brothers that loved wrestling, and I got into it at a young age, similarly, probably a lot younger than I should have. And in hindsight, I'm kind of how did my parents allow this? But nonetheless, I'm glad that they did. And I don't know if you played any of the video games at a young age, but I remember playing SmackDown on PlayStation, and
Oh, yeah.
it's like N64, No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. And
Hmm.
we had one of the ECW games at one point. I feel like maybe we rented it. And I just remember thinking, like, this is a lot more gruesome.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I don't think I ever played any of the ECW games, but like WrestleMania 2000, WCW, No Mercy, like all that stuff was like WCW versus NWO Revenge, I think was the game. Yeah.
Yes.
Like I played so much of those games when I was growing up. So, yeah.
So at what point in your adolescence did you sort of decide that that was something that you wanted to do, or that was something that you could realistically start training and pursuing?
Yeah, I mean, wrestling wasn't the first thing I did as a performance art, right? Like the pogo stick was. You know,
Ah.
I started pogo sticking when I was 8. I saw a video on YouTube of a guy doing backflips on a pogo stick, and I was like, "That's the coolest thing ever! I want to do that." And so, like, I had just gotten a pogo stick for Christmas, and I went out into my garage and I grabbed the pogo stick, and I started doing tricks. I started trying to do tricks at least, and I was like, "Yeah, let's see if anybody else is doing this." So me, 10, 8, 9 years old, on the internet going, extreme pogo sticking, and I ended up finding like an online forum of like people who were doing extreme pogo sticking, and I ended up connecting with them, and it just kind of also became a part of my life. So the pogo stick was the first thing. I went pro pogo sticking when I was 15. So I was at
Young.
15 in high school. That was like my job. Essentially, I was traveling the country. I was doing pogo shows at like state fairs, NBA halftime shows. I was doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, we had like a tour with Monster Jam where like when they would do arena shows and they needed to like, you know, let the fumes die down from the trucks, like they would send out the pogoers and we would do a pogo
Oh
show
my God.
out on the dirt. It was I got to do a lot of really cool, fun traveling and shows doing pogo sticking. But like I said, I was always a wrestling fan. So when I ended up stopping doing pogo shows and stuff when I went to college. I was just kind of focused on like getting a career and graduating college. And then I graduated college in 2019. COVID hit in 2020. Yeah, I was like freshly moved to Boston at that point. And I was just kind of, you know, doing the work from home life after college. And I had always had in the back of my mind, I always tell the story as like, I used to joke with my friend in college, my best friend in college, my friend Tom. We used to watch Monday Night Raw together every week. And I used to joke with him whenever we were watching Raw. And I said, you know, if this computer science thing doesn't work out for me, I'm gonna drop out. I'm gonna go put on 30 pounds of muscle and train and become a WWE superstar. Right. And it was a joke for a long time. And then when COVID hit, I was like, you know, I kind of want to try it. I kind of want to see what happens. And it just so happened as I was thinking of that, I saw an ad on my Facebook from the New England Pro Wrestling Academy having a one-day fantasy camp.
Facebook knows. They know.
They know.
Everything.
For sure. And so I saw that ad and I signed up for the fantasy camp. I went and tried it out. I took my first bump and I said, yep, this is for me. And I signed up for a year of training. And I don't think I've only missed a few classes in the last 3.5 years I've been training. So yeah, it's been great.
What goes through your head once you finally go in to train for the very first time? I mean, you know, we've all watched this as kids. You know, I never had the courage to go and train myself. That's why I'm on this side of the spectrum, because you're a lot tougher than I will ever be, just for the fact of getting in the ring. But like when you go into train, and you know, I think a lot of people when they go into train, it's not exactly maybe what they thought it was going to be at first, as far as like the training goes and stuff like that. So, what were your thoughts when you went into train? And were you thinking, oh, maybe this isn't for me, or, oh yeah, this is for me?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so like from being like an extreme sports athlete from like a young age, I've never really had a fear of like falling or hurting myself. It's just like that part of me got beaten out of me very early. So, I mean, like when it came to training, I was never really scared of doing anything in wrestling. But The thing that scared me for wrestling was the cardio and exercise portion of wrestling, right? Like I played sports growing up, but I never played any sports that like involved really heavy cardio and things like that. So like that was the thing that worried me the most when I started. And you know, like you always hear like those horror stories of like wrestling training being like really brutal and people are really mean and all of that stuff. I've never had that experience at NEPWA. I haven't. Like yes, the coaches are hard on us and they like push us really hard, but like it's always clear that that is in like good faith and that they want us to be the best that we can be. And I think the New England Pro Wrestling Academy is, I mean, like I've trained at a lot of places. I think New England has a great system of schools all around. And I will hype up my own school. Like I think NEPWA is one of the best schools in the country. And I think you'll be hard pressed to go to a show in New England and not find a student from the New England Pro Wrestling Academy on the show. So yeah.
I completely agree with that sentiment. I mean, if you look at the talent that NEPWA has produced over the years, like if you look at all of the big names, like, you know, Mercedes Monet, and I know Donovan Dijak has been teaching there. Anthony Green, who we had on the show at one point, has been teaching there. I mean, there's just so many. Ivar from WWE. Like there's so many extremely talented people that all have ties to New England. And there was one other thing that you said that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to circle back to. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, being an extreme sport athlete. You mentioned taking that first bump and having that feeling of like, okay, yeah, this is for me. And it's funny that you say that because I feel like you hear of some people that have the opposite experience where they go in and they take their first few bumps and they're kind of like, oh my God, like this isn't what I expected it to be. So it sounds like, I mean, you had a really kind of perfect experience in that regard. And kind of mentioning like some of the big names that have come out of NEPWA. I know a lot of them do go back to visit and do seminars and things like that. Is there anyone that you've crossed paths with there that like you felt was particularly influential or like just gave you a really great piece of advice? Because there's so much knowledge that's all tied back to the Killer Kowalski sort of training regimen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're incredibly lucky to have the alumni that we have, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned Ivar. He comes in whenever he's around town, and he always has great advice. I mean, one class in particular I remember is like right after he had won the WWE tag team titles, Tommaso Ciampa came back to help out at a class, and Ciampa was awesome. Like, you know, he didn't. I think the thing that always amazes me with whenever the big names come back to NEPWA is like they're never afraid to, like, you know, they could 100% be like, I'm a WWE superstar. I don't need to step into this ring right now. I don't need to take any bumps. I don't need to do anything. I can just stand here and talk to you guys and just like give you advice talking, right? But every time they come back, they're stepping into the ring with us. They're locking up with us. They're showing us how to do things. Like, and it amazes me every time that they're like, you know, the passion and love for the school and for wrestling and to see that is great. I'd be remiss if I just didn't mention like my trainers in general at NEPWA are like, they are so invested in us as students, and they are so invested in making us the best students that we can be. Chase Del Monte, Max Smashmaster, Donovan Dijak, Anthony Green, Brian Logan, Scotty Slade, all those guys are like so invested in us and want us to succeed. And, you know, they're constantly watching our wrestling. They watch our matches constantly when we send them to them. They give us advice. Like having them is like, I mean, those 6 people have such a wealth of knowledge of professional wrestling, and like getting to like, you know, going in on every Wednesday class with Donovan Dijak and Anthony Green, and like, just like they're hard classes. Like
that sounds like a fun class though.
It's awesome. It's amazing. But it's hard. Like it's a hard class. Like we do a lot of on the fly drills. On the fly wrestling is like the hardest thing we do. And we fail constantly. But like it's great. Like I think like they provide us the opportunities to fail in front of them at the school. And then, you know, it just makes us all that much better for when we get in front of a crowd and we're on a show. Yeah. And I mean, like the things I've learned over the last like 2.5 years, I keep learning. I go to class every Tuesday, Wednesday. I haven't stopped since I started wrestling. And it's, yeah, I learn something new every week, which is amazing.
Let me ask you, circle back a little bit to like, you know, the growing up part, because, you know, as a kid, you know, wrestling isn't always the coolest thing for other kids in school to watch, or if they do, they don't tell anybody, you know. So, you know, as a wrestling fan growing up as a kid, what do maybe those who went to school with you maybe think now when they see you doing this stuff?
It's so funny, right? Like I don't actually talk to a lot of people from high school.
That's true.
Like,
yeah, fair point.
I do have a few friends from high school, and there are like my friends are obviously so supportive. Like they're so supportive of it. And like I mean, I grew up in the age of social media, so like all of the people I went to high school with have social media. They all follow me. I don't know what they say about me behind my back, obviously, but I mean, like, from what I've seen, like everything's been really supportive. People are pretty supportive of what I'm doing. I was never quiet about my fandom of professional wrestling, so like I feel like it wasn't a surprise probably when they saw my first clip of me wrestling or me saying that I was wrestling. So I don't think I surprised anyone.
I have to ask too, because you know, obviously, especially growing up as a fan and understanding like the storytelling and the character side of things, did you know, like when you started training and you were, you know, getting ready to be greenlit to start performing, did you know early on that you wanted to incorporate the pogoing into your character, or was that something that kind of came to fruition as you started working?
That's actually a great question, because I didn't want to do it. I was pretty against it when I started. Because the pogo stick is obviously such a unique thing about me. But it's been, you know, like I said, I started when I was 8. So the pogo stick has been a part of my life forever. It's always been Steven and the pogo stick, right? Like that's like my life has been like, oh, he's the pogo guy, right? So like there was a big part of me that like really wanted to be a professional wrestler first, right? Like I really wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to be very good at wrestling. I didn't want to like rely on the pogo stick to be like my whole thing, right? So I was pretty against it when I started. And then I think I mentioned it at like one class, like 3 or 4 months in, that I did professional pogo sticking, and Max Matchmaster Scott Gear, and he was like, you're gonna do that. And I was like, what? And he was like, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do it. He goes, you absolutely have to do that, and I will not let you not. Yeah, it's funny you ask, because like early on I didn't want to do it. And you know, I'm very grateful that I did incorporate it, because it is such a unique part. But I am also very grateful that I focused really hard on the wrestling first, because if I just did the pogo stick and my in-ring wrestling was not good, I think I would be in a lot different state than I'm in at the moment.
Well, I have to add to that to put you over a little bit. The first time that we were booked on a show together, I believe I had some friends and family members and other people that were in the audience. And obviously, you know, coming out on the pogo stick, that catches people's attention right away. But a lot of the commentary that I was hearing was that, you know, obviously everyone thinks the pogo stick is really entertaining and cool. But a lot of the comments that I was hearing were like, oh, like he has a solid foundation though in the ring. Like he's strong and he can do a lot in the ring aside from the pogo sticking. So I think people are picking up on that. And along with that, I noticed you have a lot of creativity in terms of, you know, where you position the pogo stick next to the ring on the ring apron and things like that in order to have it where you need it to be to, incorporate into the match at certain points in time. So how did you kind of navigate that? Because that's something that nobody else is thinking about, that nobody else has to think about when they're training and when they're putting together a move set.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of caught me a little bit. Like I had been, I think when we first wrestled on a show together, or like you announced on a show I was wrestling on.
That's okay.
I was,
you never know.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But I was probably about two and a half years in. So like I had there was a lot of trial and error with the pogo stick and like how to set up spots with the pogo stick, where to put the pogo stick. I mean, you'll catch me sometimes like I might like make it not seem ridiculous, but like sometimes the pogo stick is just on the wrong side of the ring, and like I'll try and cover it and move it, or like we'll work it into the match where it's like we're on the outside doing something, and I'll just be like, I'll just move the pogo stick because like whatever, it's my gimmick, I can carry it around, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, lots of trial and error, lots of like trying to figure the stuff out. I mean, like you said, it's like nobody's doing that in wrestling, but I mean, we do stuff. I mean, like it's not super far off from like the common things in wrestling, right? Like sometimes we have tables under the ring, we have chairs in the ring, we need to know where they're at. So generally we just like, we talk about like where the spot's going to be after in the match, right? And sometimes I use the pogo stick more than once in the match, and if that's it, then the pogo stick just kind of ends up wherever it is, and I just kind of wing it from there. But if I'm only using the pogo stick once, I generally try to like set up my entrance in a way that the pogo stick ends up where it needs to be for the end of the match. So yeah.
Mosh Pit Messiah, welcome Mosh Pit. He says pogo stick is definitely unique in wrestling, that's for sure. And that's one of the things that Milo and I were discussing earlier was how to be unique in professional wrestling, because it's very difficult to have something. And I really like the fact that you didn't want to like bring yourself in as a gimmick as a rookie. Like you laid a foundation for yourself, you worked your way up doing the wrestling till you brought in well, I mean, it wasn't even your choice to bring in the pogo stick, but like, it's like you don't want to jump out the gate, no pun intended, essentially, with just something so crazy, and like establish yourself as a great professional wrestler first, then bring in something, and then you can elevate everything all together.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, like the pogo stick is so unique. And I mean, like, I did get the opportunity to be a professional wrestler first, right? Like Chaotic is my home promotion. And I didn't use the pogo stick for the first 2 years I wrestled in Chaotic.
Oh, wow.
So like I was in the I was tag teaming with Jerry Rivera. We were in God's Greatest Creations. We were in a religious cult together. I was brother Steven. I was brother Milo, right? Like I wasn't Pogo Milo Mirra in Chaotic for a long time. It wasn't until recently when I kind of started introducing the pogo stick, and we used it as a storyline to kind of turn me babyface and be where we're at now. But it's only been a short amount of time in Chaotic that I've used the pogo stick. So
that's so interesting. So when you mentioned the religious cult that you had started out in, how did that idea come about, or how did that story come about? Because that's a very interesting juxtaposition against the happy baby face pogo stick guy.
When I started, I was such a bad baby face. I was terrible at it. Like I looked so uncomfortable, like firing up for the crowd. I didn't have that like natural like fire that like some natural baby faces have. Like sometimes you see people.
Were you like the baby face getting booed at some point then? Like
I debuted as a heel. Okay. So like I was when we were at class, right? Like I mean, it was like Chase making fun of me of being like, man, I just can't cheer for you. Right? Like so, and whenever I would do like heel reps, it always just felt better and more comfortable for me. So I debuted as a heel. My first match was against Shannon Levangie at Chaotic Wrestling in
she's
Goffstown.
phenomenal. I've heard so many great things about her.
I mean, speaking of like natural baby faces, like somebody you can just cheer for and like get behind, Shannon Levangie is like one of
the whole persona. It's completely baby facey.
Yeah, it kind of gives Bailey vibes a little bit.
Yeah,
Bailey.
For sure. And she's so easy to root for, so easy to like cheer for. And I didn't feel like I had that when I started, and I think Chase agreed with me. So when he started booking me, it was I was a heel. And so the GGC thing kind of just happened like right place, right time. Like, so I had my first match with Shannon, and then like we had another Chaotic show, I think like 2 weeks later. And my first match went well, and Chase was kind of looking for something new for Jeriel to do. Jeriel had the God's Greatest Creation gimmick he was doing at Chaotic at the time. And Chase was like, well, we're kind of like going to do like a little bit of like a tag team tournament type deal, like tag team, we kind of want to put you in the tag team division with Jeriel. And so I said, yeah, that sounds great. You know me, I had just had my first match. I'm like, okay, you want to book me on shows, all your shows to have matches? That sounds great. I'll do whatever you want. So me and Jeriel started tagging. I kind of just adopted his gimmick of, you know, I was kind of his, you know, in his cult. I praised Jeriel, God's greatest creation. I became one of God's greatest creations. And then, you know, we kind of just like saw where the flow took us, and we just went from there, and it became like we were a faction in Chaotic for 2 years. I think it was about when we finally broke up. Yeah, I think for indie wrestling, a faction, like 2 years of a faction is pretty long. So yeah.
One other thing that I wanted to ask about, to circle back just a little bit to the pogo sticking. I know we've talked about this a lot, but I did notice, I believe you had sent me your website at one point, and somewhere in your bio, along with like all of the pogo performances that you mentioned, it also mentioned being a Guinness World Record holder. So what specifically was that record for?
Yes, I am a former Guinness World Record holder.
Okay.
It has been broken at this point by a good friend of mine. But the record was fastest 100-meter dash on a pogo stick. I think I did it in 21 seconds or something like that. But yeah, I do have the plaque in my kitchen. I have a nice Guinness World Records plaque that says my name and my Guinness World Record, so I get to show that off whenever people come over to my house, which is fun.
Any chance of trying to break that record that's been beaten?
Oh man, I did try to beat it again. So every year there's the World Championships of Pogo Sticking. It's called Pogo-palooza, and it's every year. The company that kind of runs all of our shows, they're called X Pogo. Great company, great people. They run this competition for anybody to come to and compete, and they always do a World Records Day early in the weekend, and we have the Guinness officials there, and we try to break every single pogo sticking record that we can, and so we did this again where we raced 100-meter dash on a pogo stick. We each got, I think it's like you get like 3 tries, and whoever gets the fastest time, right, if you break the record. The second time I tried to break it, I was bounding down the track. I went a little bit too far forward on one of the jumps. I launched about 7 feet in the air, took it all to my shoulder, and was out of commission for the competition that year. So I think my days of speed racing pogo sticks is over at this point.
No.
You mentioned Pogo-palooza. It feels like it's weird because like the last like 5 or 6 years, I feel like there's a convention or a palooza for like anything out there, because I had no idea there was Pogo-palooza. But why not, right?
Yeah, of course. The funny thing, Pogo-palooza has been running for like 20 years at this point.
It's
been around
too. Yeah,
it's been around for a while.
Yeah, because like when you tell like maybe like if I tell coworkers or something, oh, I'm going to this wrestling convention, they're like, there's a convention for professional wrestling. Like, yeah, they're everywhere. They're all the time. Like, what do you mean you don't know about this? So yeah, why not a Pogo-palooza?
Yeah, for sure.
Get together.
Yeah.
Shifting. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, shifting gears a little bit. So you mentioned Chaotic Wrestling being your home promotion, and you mentioned NEPWA, both of which are amazing places, especially in New England. And we've talked about a lot of the big names that come in and out of there. And so you've had the chance to step in the ring with a lot of really talented people.
Mhm.
One thing that I always like to ask on these podcasts is if there's anyone on the independent scene that you maybe haven't crossed paths with yet that you have your eye on, and maybe you'd like to use this opportunity to call them out.
Oh man, this is always like an interesting question, right? It yeah, I'm spilling the beans a little bit here, I think, but like I've when I first started wrestling, I was training a lot with Aaron Rourke.
Yes.
Aaron Rourke, Evil Gay, Aaron Rourke. I trained a lot with Aaron. Aaron was a very big mentor to me. And we unfortunately, like, we've wrestled in like fatal 4-ways and tag matches, but we've never gotten a good singles match together. So I'm spilling the beans a little bit, but
Okay.
there is a match scheduled for Milo Mirra versus Aaron Rourke coming up very soon. So
we'll clip
that should be-
this and then
yeah.
we'll tag Aaron Rourke.
Yeah, so I'm very excited for that. It's somebody I've wanted to wrestle for a really long time. But yeah, I have a list of people. I tend to be like, I don't know. I have a weird feeling about the whole like posting your list of people to like.
Yeah.
I kind of want those things to happen naturally, like, because I feel like if I force it, it like, I don't know, it doesn't. The vibe is just kind of off for me, you know. So I have my list. I have my list of people I want to face. But you know, I haven't ever like publicized that sort of thing. Yeah.
We'll find out if we keep watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let me ask you a question. You got the Buffalo Bills in the background. You know, I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida, so you know I grew up as a Dolphin fan. We got the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Do we cheer for the Patriots?
Don't remind me that the
Seahawks?
Patriots are in the Super Bowl.
I know, it's terrible.
I drive up to NEPWA every day and I see a bunch of signs reminding me to like drive safe for the game, because with all these Patriots puns, and I sometimes want to pull my car off the road because of it. But no, I kid. Yeah, no, I will not be rooting for the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but I'm a Boston babyface, so I need to keep a little quiet about that.
Yeah, I think the Bills are the one AFC East team that like I would root for, like if they were in the Super Bowl. Like you never root for the Jets ever, like under no circumstances whatsoever. And then the Patriots are just right above the Jets.
It's really funny you bring this up, right? Like you said you're a Miami fan, right?
Right.
So I actually, at the last Rebel Spirit Pro show, the Bills playoff game was happening during, like, literally as the show was starting, the Bills Broncos game. And so I was like feverishly watching it in the locker room.
That's how everybody's been the past month at weekend shows. Yeah.
And so I'm watching, and iBlack Jack was also on the show. And he's a big Dolphins fan. And so it's funny that you mentioned that, like, we'll never root for the Jets or the Pats, because me and iBlack Jack commiserated. We were like, yeah, we might root against each other because we're divisional rivals, but like we can all agree that we don't root for the Jets and we don't root for the Pats.
Yes, 100%.
It's funny because I don't know if you guys have seen, there is like a map going around on social media. It's a map of the US, and it shows there's like one dot, and it's like people who are rooting for the Patriots. And then there's like one other dot. Yeah, there's like the two dots of like, this is who we're rooting for in the Super Bowl. And like the whole rest of the map is just like indifferent.
Yeah, I mean, I did spend my entire childhood watching Tom Brady beat up my favorite team. So,
well, now we have Drake May. It's like a different, the same kind of character, but just in a different form.
Sure.
Which totally doesn't help. One other thing that I wanted to ask about, and this is random, but kind of like following in Tony's footsteps of picking out things on your wall to talk about. Is that also a violin?
I was going to say, we're going to start picking stuff off your wall.
Because I also played the violin.
Yeah, I did. I played violin. Well, I still play occasionally. That's why it's on my wall. I actually put it up there recently because I wanted to start playing again. But yeah, I played all throughout my childhood. I started playing in 3rd grade for school.
Me too.
And then I took to that, and I love music in general. I mean, like, you can also I'll move a little bit. Like, I have my guitars over here and like my amps and stuff. So I play guitar as well. I play violin. And so music's always been a part of my life as well. And so, yeah, violin, I was huge into violin when I was in high school. I played in all of the county orchestras, state orchestras. I was first chair at my high school, all that fun stuff. So, yeah.
I feel like we have a violin battle now because.
Oh man, yeah, we could. I don't know if I'm as good as I used to be, but
I'm definitely not. I also similarly. So I also played growing up, and I did like the Western Mass districts, and I think I auditioned for all states at one point. So we might have crossed paths.
I grew up in New York. So
never mind.
Probably not, but yeah.
That's so funny. Have you ever played any of your instruments while pogo sticking?
Yeah, of course. I played when I was a kid, everybody always asked me to play the violin while pogo sticking. There's definitely a picture out there of me with my violin on my pogo stick when I was in in elementary school. So
I wonder if that is something that we'll ever see in a wrestling context.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, I was just thinking, you know how like at WrestleMania or big AEW shows, they bring out like the bands and stuff like that sometimes to play. I think Julie needs to play Milo's ring entrance with like a violin at one of these shows here. Eventually,
he'll come out on the pogo stick with the violin. He'll start one-upping me.
Yes, and you both start playing as you're ringing out to him to the thing. I think this could be something pretty epic.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up those entrances. I had a little bit of I didn't watch wrestling a lot in high school. I was still in love with it, but I didn't watch it a ton, like weekly shows. And I got back into wrestling when I was in college because my friend Tom, who I met at orientation, was huge into wrestling. And he was going to SummerSlam in Brooklyn that year. And he invited me to go with him. And so we went to NXT TakeOver the night before, which was the night it was Shinsuke against, I think it was Finn. Maybe it was Samoa Joe. But Shinsuke versus Samoa Joe, that was the entrance where the violin player came out and played that. I mean, that show, that TakeOver Brooklyn 2, I think, was probably the thing that really got me back into wrestling 100%. I was yeah, I'm watching everything I can of wrestling right now. And that's all I watched throughout college.
It's funny you say that because again, I feel like I had somewhat of a similar experience where I grew up as a wrestling fan, and then I feel like sort of mid 2000s time frame, I feel like a lot of people that I know that were really into it sort of fell out of it a little bit. And it probably wasn't until I graduated from college where I had a more disposable income where I could start going to shows, just on my own volition, where I really committed again. Aside from the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn that you mentioned, were there any other memorable shows or live events or anything like that you can recall?
Yeah, I have two that are coming immediately to mind. The first one is when I was young, I was a huge John Cena fan, and I grew up in Albany, New York. And 2006 New Year's Revolution was in Albany, New York. Elimination Chamber match. John Cena runs the gauntlet of the Elimination Chamber, wins his match. I was in the crowd. I was so excited. And then Vince McMahon's music hits. And I got to witness the first ever Money in the Bank cash in, which was Edge coming out on John Cena after the Elimination Chamber. And 8-year-old me was not happy. My brother was my brother was 20 at the time. And it was me and my brother who went to the show. My brother was like, you don't even realize, I remember him telling me, he's like, you are so upset about what has happened here. And he goes, you don't even realize that you just witnessed wrestling history. Like nobody knew that Edge could just cash it in at any time he wanted to. Like they said it, but like we were like, oh, he'll have to set up a match, right?
Yeah.
Nope. After an Elimination Chamber, John Cena's all bloody and beaten up, and he's gonna take that title from him. Yeah, so that's the first one that always comes to mind for me. And the second one is actually when I got back into wrestling in college, I went to a ROH show in Buffalo, New York. I went to college in Buffalo. I went to an ROH show, and I got to talk about this with the man himself recently because we were on a show together. And there was a match on that show. Brian Cage was on that show, and he comes out, and Brian Cage, massive dude, huge, and he has an open challenge. He gives an open challenge to the back. And he says, who's going to come out? And this was my first indie wrestling show, this ROH show. So I'm wondering who's going to come out. I knew some of the ROH talent. And so Cheeseburger's music hits to come out and face Brian Cage at this ROH show. And I remember this match like so much. Like Cheeseburger is so much smaller than Brian Cage, but they had me so enthralled in this match. I was so enthralled with Cheeseburger's gimmick, and it definitely helped me to fall in love with wrestling again. And so, like, not too long ago, Cheeseburger and I were on a show together, and I told him about this, and I was like, we have to take a picture together. I love you. You're like the best. And it was such a like great full circle moment of like being in a locker room with one of the guys who helped me like fall in love with wrestling again. So yeah.
It's so crazy how these little unexpected moments really not only define like, maybe career paths, but like our entire life at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny when you mention full circle moments. I feel like similarly, I've had a number of moments where like you see someone on TV or you see someone on a show and you feel influenced by them. And then like you go on this journey yourself and you end up crossing paths with them on the other side. When you mention ROH, you got me thinking that the show that we have tomorrow, we actually have a former ROH talent who has come back into the fold this year, TK O'Ryan. And I know that you got to, I can't remember if you guys were in the Rumble at the same time, but I know that you guys were in the Rebel Spirit Rumble together this year, which was, kind of another crazy full circle moment to think about. Is there anyone else that maybe you had watched or emulated in some way that you kind of got to circle back with later on?
I mean, I was lucky enough to be on the Limitless Vacationland Cup in 2025 or 2025 Vacationland Cup, which had the Hardy Boys on the show. And the Hardy Boys were some of my Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy were two of my favorite wrestlers growing up. So like getting to meet them and hang out with them and talk to them about stuff, and Jeff Hardy telling me my pogo sticking was cool was probably one of the coolest things that has ever happened to me in my life. And I'd be remiss to not talk about Donovan Dijak, man. We have a pretty good relationship now. Like we talk. I train with Dijak pretty constantly. I've rode in the car with him to shows. So I would call him a friend of mine at this point, right? Which is crazy because I used to go to all these NXT shows that Dijak was on and having these amazing matches, and like I knew he was from this area, and like I knew all that stuff, but like, yeah, I mean, I was live for Donovan Dijak versus Ilya Dragunov, Last Man Standing, and that was like,
wow,
it was incredible. It's such a good match. It's awesome. So yeah, I mean, like getting to train with Dijak every week is like definitely a full circle moment for me as well.
It's funny when you mentioned Dijak too. I was thinking about this not too long ago. There was a show that I went to pre-COVID. I think it was 2019, and it was an NXT show at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. And I think at that point, he was wrestling under the name Dominik Dijakovic. And I remember when he came out, all of the people around me, everyone was like, oh, like he's from here. Like he's our hometown guy. And everybody was really excited that he was there. And then it's like fast forward a handful of years, and I'm like, oh, I'm announcing him in his championship match now. Like those moments are so cool when your fandom comes full circle in ways that you never expected it to.
Yeah, it's really wild. I mean, like it's always wild to experience the fact that, like, you know, wrestling is this huge thing and millions of people watch wrestling all over the world. But like, it's, you know, we're only ever 1 or 2 steps away from pretty much any wrestler who wrestles, right? Like, at least in the US, you know, like, you know, I train with Donovan Dijak every week, and Donovan Dijak has wrestled Randy Orton and John Cena, right? Like, so, you know, it's pretty crazy to think about how big wrestling is, but, you know, how small the wrestling world is at the same time. So, yeah.
Let me ask you about the professional pogo sticking. I do want to circle back just a little bit there. You said you traveled, you went around the country doing all kinds of cool stuff. What is one of the shows that kind of like really stands out to you as you being in that moment of like, wow, I'm really here and this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I did one of my first shows for pogo sticking in my hometown in Albany, New York. There was a Monster Jam show at the Pepsi Arena. It was called at the time.
I remember that. And then it was,
I don't.
What is it now? Do you remember?
I think it's like the M&T Center or like something like that. It's
I
named
know
after a
it's
bank now, I
changed a
think.
couple times.
Like Times Union Center, Pepsi Arena, Knickerbocker. I don't know. There's like, people call it 1,000 different things.
Yeah.
But the arena in Albany, New York, there was a Monster Jam show, and the company asked me, they said, hey, like, we have a spot open. You want to do it? And so, like, getting to be backstage and like being out on the actual like arena floor for the arena that I grew up in, that I literally watched that John Cena show, like the Edge cash in at that arena, like being able to perform in that arena as a kid was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, that's the one moment that really like sticks in my mind of like, you know, you get to having these talents and like doing these things, like you get to do really cool and like fun, interesting things that a lot of people just like don't get to do. So yeah.
Another thing that I was thinking, so I know you mentioned that you didn't incorporate and you didn't want to incorporate the pogoing into your wrestling at first, but then when you finally did, I mean, there have been some really fun videos of you going around on the internet, like some really fun spots in matches where like all of a sudden you just out of nowhere. What was the fan reaction? Like when you did incorporate the pogo sticking, what was kind of like the initial reaction and the initial feedback to that? Because it seemed like, at least on social media, it got like an overwhelming amount of positive feedback.
Yeah, it went viral immediately. So the first show I ever used it on was at Restival in 2024. It was at Rad Pro Wrestling. I made my debut there. I was tag teaming with Bryce Donovan. We were Lynx Panther and Chance Paradox. We were like 90s hackers, kind of based on the movie Hackers. And we, you know, he came out with like light up gloves, a keyboard, like crazy glasses. And I came out in a green mesh top and I jumped on a trench coat and jumped on a pogo stick. That's what I did. The fan reaction was great at that show. Like the reaction to the pogo stick was awesome. The first spot I ever did with it was just like doing like a rolling senton off of the pogo stick onto, we were wrestling Fresh Air at that show. And I did it to them, and it got an awesome reaction. We went right to the finish afterwards. But like, then I posted it on Twitter, and yeah, it immediately kind of blew up, and people were like reposting it all over the place. And I was like, all right. Okay. I had to like go back to Scott with like my head in my hands and be like, okay, you were right. You were right. I should be doing this all the time. So yeah, I mean, the reaction's always been great. I mean, the internet has haters everywhere for every bit of like, the internet wrestling community. I sometimes think don't like wrestling at times. So, you know, there are haters, but like the reaction to the pogo stick has been overwhelmingly positive. And I think the thing that's also like, you know, I didn't expect people to come up to me and like tell me the pogo stick was stupid or bad, right? But like, I think the reaction from the wrestlers has been something that has been a little surprising to me as well. Like I've had so many like really wrestlers I really respect who come up to me and say like, hey, that's really unique and I really like what you're doing with it. And that always feels awesome to hear. So yeah.
in the world of professional wrestling, we know things are just out there and crazy and a little out there. I mean, maybe somebody's most bizarro moment is wrestling a guy that came in on a pogo stick.
Yeah.
But Milo, is there a particular just bizarro moment that you said, like, what WTF just happened? Whether it was a crazy fan interaction or something that happened in the ring, do you have one of those moments?
Oh man, this is a good question. Let me think for a second. Oh, bizarro things that happen in the ring. I mean, like, okay, battle royals on independent wrestling shows are some of the most insane things I've ever been a part of. Like, you throw 20 to 30 independent wrestlers and you say, hey, you guys have 8 minutes, go out there and like make something happen in a battle royal. Like, there is bound to be some crazy things happening. We literally just had a show this past weekend for Chaotic. We had a fundraiser show up in New Hampshire, and we did a battle royal which had about 20 people in it. And one of the newer wrestlers, Patrick Wheatman, came out with a giant stuffed banana, and he just it's not his gimmick. He never comes out with it, but for some reason he decided, I'm just going to bring this giant stuffed banana I found in the back out to the ring with me. And that banana was probably the most over thing in the match. He was beating everybody with it. He was throwing it. He threw it when it got thrown over the top rope. Rich Palladino announced the banana has been eliminated. The crowd was booing like crazy. Yeah. So I mean, like, that's one thing that came to my mind immediately. I'm sure if I like thought for a while about it, there's definitely some like other crazy stuff that has happened. But yeah,
that's a great thing about independent wrestling crowds. Just a lot of times they just go with it. Like, there's a banana in there, and we're gonna boo the heck out of whoever threw that banana out.
Yeah, exactly. You actually. Oh, go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah, it was me, but like, I think that's one of the things I love about professional wrestling is like there is nothing else in this world, right? Where like you could convince me that like this stuffed banana is the coolest thing ever, and I need to root for it to win this battle royal against 30 humans, right? Or like there's no other world in like I always come back to Rad Pro Wrestling, right? Like, where else are you going to tell me that we're going to have a dream match, right? But like, it's not the typical dream match where it's like, yeah, I'm seeing two wrestlers who I really want to see wrestle. No, like this is a literal dream match. They're getting in the ring, they're falling asleep, and they're waking up into another dream. And then we go 3 layers deep in the dream. And that's the story of this match. And we've convinced this crowd, and we convey through this ridiculous thing that we're doing, that we're 3 levels deep in a dream and we need to bust out of it to get back to the match. Like, what other art form has that? I think it's like there's like professional wrestling is endless. The ideas are endless. Like you see it happening all over the indies. You see it like I think like Rad Pro's doing an amazing job of like showing like what just like the fun that wrestling can be. Chikara did it forever. Mystery Wrestling is also doing like awesome stuff, just showing you just like how much fun wrestling can be. And then we also just like have the serious side of wrestling too, right? Like we have these actual like fights, like where people are like they're having realistic fights and they're like conveying so much emotion and so much storytelling through this physical thing that we do. And I don't think there's anything else like it in the world. And I love it. I love it to death. I don't know. I think that comes out when I talk about it, but I love wrestling. So
I feel like whenever I'm talking to people, like if one of my friends maybe hasn't been to a wrestling event before and they're kind of curious about it, I feel like I always tell them, to me, it feels almost like a crossover between being at like an actual sporting event and being at some sort of a theatrical performance. And I think to your point, it's like there's nothing else that I can think of that has that same sort of presentation, that same sort of feeling. And to jump off of what you were saying about the battle royal, I wanted to circle back to one of the matches that I had seen you in, the Rebel Spirit Rumble. There was a moment, because I love like good comedy in wrestling, and I love fun characters in wrestling. And there's some people that like lean more towards like the serious side, but I like the more lighthearted side when it's done really well. And I remember being so excited about just like such a variety of characters in that match, because it was like we had you, and then we also had someone who we have had as a guest on this show before, Jermaine Marbury, who comes out to the ring with his giant basketball mascot, Benny the basketball, who was also a part of that match. And just like the fan reactions to that are what make it so special. And I think also, to your point too, I think wrestling is one of those things where like the fans sort of dictate, you know, what works and what doesn't, and what goes over and what doesn't. Like there might be something like that banana that kind of comes to fruition sort of as an accident because it just happened to be backstage. But all of a sudden, that's like one of the most important pieces of the match. And that's like largely because of the fans. They just love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you bring up Jermaine, because Jermaine and I we cross paths constantly being New England boys together. And we've tagged together quite a bit. We tagged together at Wrestling with Character. We tagged together up at Limitless Wrestling. So yeah, like I think one of my favorite matches I had last year was me and Jermaine against Swipe Right up at Limitless Wrestling.
Oh, I was there for that.
It was it was so much fun. And it's like that's one of the great things about professional wrestling. When you have great characters, like the wrestling comes easy. Right, like when you have great characters that like the fans can connect to, like the wrestling is easy, right? Like it's easy to do it, and it makes it so much fun. So yeah, there's a lot of great characters around independent wrestling, and Jermaine is for sure one of them.
one of my favorites. We had him on the show as well with Tony.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about characters in professional wrestling. Outside of the world of professional wrestling, Milo, who is maybe your favorite fictional character?
Oh, my favorite fictional character. That's such a great question. Let me think. I've been reading a book series recently called Red Rising. I don't know if anybody knows about it, but there's a character in Red Rising who's kind of like he's kind of like a rat. he's like a really like, you know, he doesn't really fit in with like the group of people he's with that much. His name is Severo, and he's probably one of my favorite fictional characters right now. That's one of them. I was also a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I think Tyrion Lannister is probably also one of my favorite fictional characters. Just kind of coming over the adversity of like having a disability, and also like being a strong figure in that world is a super interesting thing to have. So those are probably my two I would bring up right now.
Okay. And as a big music guy, you said, you know, music's what's probably your most, you know, played album of all time, or maybe your favorite album of all time?
Yeah, I'm gonna get obscure with this again. I like I'm a huge hardcore music and metalhead. I think probably my most played album is Colors Live by Between the Buried and Me. It's a like 12-track album that they wrote that was meant to be played all back to back. Right, like so like the album just kind of flows through. It's progressive metal, so like if you're not into screaming and like the hard music, maybe not for you, but that's one of them. But like I'm not genre specific. I listen to a ton of stuff. One of my top played albums last summer was probably Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet. So I kind of bounce all over the place, but yeah, those are two that come to mind.
Go ahead, Julie.
Oh, I was just going to say, as a violin nerd, this is kind of jumping off of the same type of question. Were there any songs that you can remember offhand that were some of your favorites to play on violin, or maybe any of the other instruments that you play?
Yeah. On guitar, one of my favorite songs to play is End of Heartache by Killswitch Engage, which is Roderick Strong's theme. Yeah, that's one of the things that ties back into wrestling as well. For violin, I always loved playing Irish music. I always loved playing Irish jigs. There was one symphony we played, Simple Symphony. I forget the composer, but there's like a four movement symphony that we played in high school that I really really liked, and it had a pizzicato whole movement that was all pizzicato, and the whole
Love
pizzicato
that.
was plucking on the violin for people who don't know. So hearing a whole orchestra plucking their instruments rather than bowing them is a very interesting dynamic when it comes to seeing an orchestral piece. So that's one that comes to mind for sure.
This might be the one and only opportunity I get to ask Julie this question about, like, what's your favorite song to play on the violin? Because I don't think it may tie into too many wrestlers. Then.
So I remember when I was a freshman in high school, we had an audition song that we were learning. It was the first movement. This is going to sound really nerdy, but the first movement of Bach's Concerto in A minor.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was first learning it, it was really challenging. And I feel like I wasn't prepared playing it for that audition, but then I kind of committed myself to it after the fact. And it became like one of my favorites of all time. It's like muscle memory. I'm like, I can still feel like where my fingers are supposed to go to play it. But that was probably my favorite. And I still listen to it like periodically. I'll be like listening to my playlist on shuffle in the car, and there's like all kinds of random like you said, like Sabrina Carpenter, and then there might be like some people's wrestling entrance music themes that I'm listening to, and then like maybe a Bach Concerto in A minor.
I have the same experience. I mean, like there are times where I just like I fondly think back on my violin music, and I listen to classical music at times. I don't know, music. I have my favorites, but like I'll listen to anything. I'll give anything a shot in music. So I'm not a hater, not a gatekeeper for music for sure.
I will listen to almost anything. The one thing that I have a hard time with is country music, unless
I knew it was coming.
Unless it's a little more like pop based, like it feels a little bit more poppy, I can get into it. But aside from that, I have a hard time with country music personally.
I think for country, I'm actually the opposite. I think the pop country stuff I actually am like not a huge fan of, but like
not
the more
as authentic.
the more folky stuff I'm more into for sure.
That's usually how it goes, right? It's like it's one extreme or the other. Yeah.
So one thing that we always like to ask about as we're kind of starting to wrap up the interview, where can we see? I know you just posted your schedule on social media, so where can we see you next? I know that I will be seeing you tomorrow, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that and some of your other upcoming bookings.
Yeah, so tomorrow in Timber Yard Brewing.
Yep, East Brookfield, Massachusetts.
East Brookfield, Mass. Yes, at Rebel Spirit Pro. I will be there. I'm not sure if my match has been announced, but
I did see. I think so. Card's a little subject to change for this show because this is more of like one of our house shows.
Yeah.
But last that I heard, you're going to be paired with someone who I believe Tony actually knows from Atlanta, Grayson Pierce, accompanied by the diva Corinne Joy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just had them both on the show or I should say not even so much on the show, but I did backstage interviews with them at Action Wrestling last week. Yeah,
I did see that. So I thought this was really cool that all of our paths are now colliding.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, so I have Rebel Spirit tomorrow. I have 2 shows with Chaotic this month, and then I also will be at Wrestling with Character in Connecticut this month as well. I'm taking a little bit of a vacation this month, so a little bit of a light schedule for me this month.
Wrestling with Character is also a really fun promotion. Yeah. I know Kurt Adonis, who works for a lot of different promotions in a production capacity backstage. That's kind of his home promotion. He's so talented. He's everywhere. Like, I don't know how he has the time to do everything that he does, but he's a very phenomenal organizer backstage.
Sure. Absolutely. And then
the other production. The other thing we always like to ask people as well is, where can the people find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and X Twitter. I don't really use X Twitter though, so if you go on there, you might not see much. But Milo Mirra _ is my tag on all of those things. I think I also have Threads accounts and a Facebook account. Milo Mirra, find me there. You can also find everything on my website, www.milomirra.com. I post my schedule there. There are some match links there for you to check out, and has a bio and link to all my social media. So you can check me out there.
Very cool. And Julie, we know you have a show, of course, tomorrow night, but what other cool stuff you got coming up?
Yes, I will also be in East Brookfield tomorrow night. We have another show coming up in Marlborough, Massachusetts on the 21st. And I just solidified a number of bookings for Mania Week. They haven't all been publicly announced yet, so I'm waiting to share the names and details of some of them. But I do have on the schedule, I'm going to be in Las Vegas from Wednesday, April 15th through Saturday, April 18th. And I'll be posting as soon as I'm able my full schedule of Mania Week events. So really excited to have that locked in early. And you guys can follow me on social media, on Instagram at The Crown Jewels. I always say The Crown Jewels. It's with an E at the end because it's like the old English spelling. The other one was taken, so we got creative. But as always, Tony, thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to be back again at some point, hopefully in the near future, for some more interviews. And Milo, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I'm always very excited for our guests on this program, but I was especially excited just seeing what a multi-talented performer you are. I knew that we were going to have a lot of really cool stuff to dive into, and excited to see you wrestle again tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, guys. This was a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And as for us here on Tone In Entertainment, make sure you're following me on Instagram. That's where we're posting all the backstage interviews first now. So tone.in.entertainment. We shot a slew of backstage interviews this weekend in 2 days for 1FW. So much great content coming very, very soon. As for us here on the channel here, next Wednesday, the tag team Better Together will be joining me. These guys are just a ton of fun. I've had them on the channel a couple times. They've been traveling. They've been doing big things. So it's time to catch up with Hadar and Ori once again. As far as future shows go, we have CCW in Nashville, Tennessee on the 21st. I will be going back there. Action Wrestling, I'm coming back Friday, February 27th, and Saturday, February 28th. We have a huge TV taping, Clash at the Station, Harley Cameron, Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, QT Marshall, just some of the names already announced. And the big news coming out this week too, well, it's already been announced, but March 21st, the Arn Anderson homecoming event. They just announced a 8-man cage match for that particular event. And also Orange Cassidy and Harley Cameron will be teaming on that very show against Rosario Grillo and Valentina Rossi. That's going to be a huge show. Another TV taping on March 1st. So there's lots of great stuff going on down here. That's for sure. So make sure you're following me on Instagram for all those backstage interviews. That's where they go first from all the promotions right now. And if you miss them, whatever, you only got YouTube, you can watch them here on YouTube as well too. So they're everywhere, and Facebook as well too. But definitely Instagram is the place to see them first. So Milo, Julie, both of you guys, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. And guys, for all those who watch it here or watching it later on demand, thank you so much. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Tone In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.